Thanks.
Hello and welcome to Space and Style, a TV show designed to connect various stakeholders across the property value chain. My name is Olamide Onifade and I am your host. On this first episode, we are going to be discussing how to avert the menace of building collapse. The rising status of Lagos as an emerging megacity has come with a number of challenges, one of which is building collapses, which has reached an alarming and lamentable stage. The disaster is comparable to a plane crash, considering the amount of loss of lives and the destruction of property that can occur. So, building failures occur globally, with reoccurrence in Nigeria, especially Lagos State, is a huge cause for concern. So in an attempt to find a lasting solution, I hope so, to this menace and put it in proper perspective, I have with me on the show today architect Ladipo Lewis. He's a chartered architect and the principal partner of Aztec ASC Design Consultants. Architect Ladipo Lewis is a graduate of architecture from the University of Jos, Plateau State. He was the chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, Lagos State chapter, from 2012 to 2016. He is an active member of the Architects Registration Council, member of Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat in Chicago. He's also an international associate of the American Institute of Architects, a member of the International Society of City and Regional Planners, amongst many, many others. He has designed and supervised over 50 projects and still counting. Thank you, Architect Lewis, for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. So, recently, we had this menace occur again in Lagos, which is the very recent one of the Ikoyi collapse. It's unfortunate that this is happening. You know, when the idea of this show was conceived, I had always known that the first topic would be on building collapse. But what I did not know was there was going to be a reoccurrence about the same time we're going to start the show. So this is so devastating for me. So to start, what is the role of science, of soil test in construction?
Well, before we start, I would also like to condole the families of those who have lost loved ones. It's quite a sad event. The construction process is complex, but also, I would say, simple to follow in steps if it's broken down that way. Naturally, every soil occurs in each area is different. The soil textures are different. The soil stratas are different. So in the building industry, the construction industry, you are required to carry out a soil test using a qualified geotechnical engineer. Now, the outcome of this soil test, where a lot of drilling could be done, soil samples could be extracted, various test methods could be used. It's done by a specialist. Those samples would also be taken to a lab to be tested, and a full report will be given on the bearing capacity of the soil. This will determine where you found your foundation and what type of foundation structure will be required for the building. The bigger your building, the bigger the loads that the soil will have to carry. And also, the more intricate your foundation could be. So everybody knows about the simple pad foundation. That could suffice in areas where you have very good soil strength. You then move to the area of having a raft foundation, and there are different kinds of raft foundations. And then so you look at the pile foundation, which most of the time is a required thing in places where the soil is very weak, or you have to go deep into the ground to find your foundation to hold up the structure.
Sorry to cut you in. Do you think this requirement, as important as it is, do you think Nigerians do soil test?
I would say this, that in time past, it used to be overlooked.
Okay.
And probably for very established contractors, they would insist on it. I have to tell you this, I have had a case of even somewhere in the US that became an issue where soil test wasn't done.
Oh, they completely ignored it.
And it became an issue because people assume we built in this area for years. So everybody assumes we know how to build in this area. I believe that a soil test should be mandatory for every building. I would insist on it even if you were doing a bungalow.
Even in a familiar terrain?
Yes.
Because I've even heard engineers say that even on a plot of land,
yes,
the soil composition can be different.
There's a major project in the UK that was a housing estate, famous housing estate. And they found out that when they drilled, they found an underground water body. And that changed the entire project. So the kind of piles you need to do there will be different. Because now you might have to kiss the piles to pass through that water body to more solid ground. And I heard there was a project in Abuja that also encountered that. And also think that one of the most important things is that we now need to archive the body of knowledge we have, where all these soil test reports can be accessed online.
What's the importance of that?
That means you could actually preliminarily do your studies about the area you want to build in and know what happened next door to you, a few streets away from you, as a guide before you even went as far as maybe saying, I want to purchase land in that area.
Okay, for that purpose.
Yes.
Because I was going to say, that could also influence people completely overlooking it. They can go online, do a search and say, okay, I know the terrain, then we don't have to do the soil test. But you still have
to do your own soil test. But like if you take maybe the city of London now, they probably have all the geotechnical surveys or probably every plot in that area already. They've surveyed everywhere. So you can pick up these coordinates online. So the planning authority already knows where you're bringing your design, so what is expected in that area.
Wow. Okay, so moving on. Yes. What are the composition of the professionals, the consultants on building sites? What are the different? Because I've heard builders, structural engineers, M&Es, architects, different people, and I'm confused. Who are they? How do they come in the construction process? Because these are the people that contribute to the integrity of the structure. Okay. So who do we hold accountable? Because there are too many professionals on board.
Well, you see, if you're talking of the development of a building, you could have a small team. If you're doing of a city, you have a large team. So you could start with, let's say, a small building. So you have a client like you.
Okay.
You want to design your house. So you engage an architect.
So an architect is always the first point of call?
Most of the time. In some projects, you're probably looking at a real estate project. So it might involve someone who is knowledgeable in development, who's going to do financial figures for you and say, okay, you want to build certain blocks of flats in this area. Is it viable?
Okay, so
is it
regarding
not?
the construction, the architect.
So you have what we sometimes call a stage zero, where you're still juggling your mind where to buy your plot, what area, how big is it, and all that. The project actually starts from that stage. But for a small building, you've already made up your mind where you want to live. You already know the size of building you want. So you engage an architect who now designs the building. And then a structural engineer comes in and says, okay, this is the kind of building you want. We need a geotechnical survey to design the foundation. You can actually design the tops of the building without the foundation, because you know the load that you're going to put on the foundation. So a geotechnical survey will tell you the bearing capacity of the soil.
So that goes back to the soil test.
Yes.
But
so
who assembles all those professionals? The
client actually could say, look, I want to engage professionals. An architect who is registered, a structural engineer who is registered, mechanical, electrical engineers who are registered, quantity surveyors who are registered. You can also engage the architect, say, okay, bring your team.
I was going to say that.
Yes.
That I think the power of a client to determine all the professionals on site is too much.
Well, there is also a control mechanism.
Okay.
When you go for approvals, the planning office is going to check that those professionals are qualified.
How do they know?
When you bring your drawings,
yes,
their seals are going to be on the drawings.
Okay.
Their addresses, telephone numbers, and registration numbers are going to be there. So the onus is on the planning authority to check that these consultants are fully qualified and registered.
But we have seen, I have personally seen where architects sell their skills.
Well,
people do the drawing and give it to them.
It's a dark side of the profession.
Wow.
That is actually a professional misconduct. And you could lose your license for such. And we warn young licensees of the profession to be careful about that, because you're responsible for your sales and you're responsible for the projects you design.
Okay, so when you're bringing this consultants, these professionals on board, I've heard quackery,
Yes.
quackery. So how do we ensure that you are able to sift the professionals from the quacks on gaining access into the construction sites?
First and foremost, there's a register of architects, there's a register of consultants. Now, what I will say is this: it's like a driver's license. If you're engaging a driver, how do you ensure he has a license? He presents his license to you. That's one. You can also should be able to ask the Federal Road Safety Corps that, is this license authentic? So you can ask the regulatory bodies, and they have a register that is online. I know most regulatory bodies have that, and you can check to find out if this person is a qualified consultant. Each of the professions also have associations,
okay,
who also give memberships and also give, we like to say, an elevated membership or fellowship to certain senior members of the profession. So you can also go to the associations to check that this person is a qualified architect or qualified engineer. But the register, the license by the regulatory body, is the official stamp of the federal government saying you are qualified to practice.
Okay, so like the Council of Legal Education, which I'm familiar
Yes.
with, those are the ones that give us the license. So that is where you make your reference to.
Yes.
So how do we then, okay, another thing that's been a bit worrisome to me is the quality of the building, the builders, the engineers and architects, from down to the education they receive. How can we maintain the integrity of that process? Because you can only take from the pool of what the education provides.
Yes.
So how do we know this is a qualified architect?
Yeah.
This is a qualified structural engineer. He comes to me, he has all the licenses, but how do I ensure the integrity of his practice?
Well, that's one of the reasons why we have various, will I say, groups of, we like call it advocates for that. So that's why you have associations. The associations are supposed to advocate for best practices. Now, the regulatory body also does continuous professional development. So you renew your license on a yearly basis.
Oh,
Yes.
so it's not a one-off license.
Not a one-off
so if I'm
thing.
engaging a professional, I want him to have the license for every year.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then you also can ask for the architect's profile. What projects have you been involved in? Also do a background check. What kind of projects is done? Who are his clients? You are allowed to do that before engaging him.
So when you have a situation where the client insists on bringing his team, and you know for a fact that some professionals are quacks, supposedly, how do you deal with that? Because he has the money, he's dictating. So what happens?
Well, there are two checks. It's the person who is registered and is a consultant on the project should never work with one who is not.
That's a bit difficult.
Yeah, because it impacts on you. It's obligatory on you. It's part of your code of conduct. Because you are letting down the team and it could affect you. You are not safeguarding your integrity by doing that. And when the drawings are going to be sent for building plan approval, who is going to seal the drawings?
At that stage,
yeah.
Probably at that stage you've passed the planning permits and all that, you are now on site.
Now, if you're on site,
yes,
whoever designed the building is also required to supervise the implementation of his drawings on site.
Because I was going there, because
Yes.
people have said, who do you hold responsible?
Yes.
There's a whole lot of professionals
Yes,
involved.
yes.
How can you lay claims to a particular person?
Yes.
And I have said, holds the architect responsible. From the word go, from conception to completion.
Okay.
I think architects should be held responsible.
I will explain this in another format, in that the architect supervises the design of the building. He also inspects the works on site. If you do regular site meetings, you come there once a month. But the contractor is there 24/7. And within an hour, things could go wrong. So the onus is also on the contractor. In fact, when putting up the building, it's his baby. He's the one that buys the materials, not the architect. He's the one that procures the reinforcements. He's the one that puts the concrete mix. And I can tell you this, there are checks and balances put in place. All these materials are supposed to be sent to a lab. Samples of them are supposed to be sent to a lab for testing.
Okay, so hold your thought on that. We'll continue with the discussion when we come back.
Okay.
Thank you. We're due for a break. We'll come back in a minute. Thank you for staying with us.
Space and style.
We have the artisan spot, where we talk to different artisans who support the real estate industry with their craftsmanship.
Space and style.
I've been in this industry about, let's say, 20 to 25 years now. About the wood, there's different, many different. As this now, we use this one, we call this one mat. We call these other ones, some others, glossy board. We call some MDF, we call some HDF. As it is now, if you look at this HDF. And if I show you any other one, if you see this, you can't compare the two together. Before we do the work for you, we have to ask you the one that your capacity will carry. Before choose the one you want before we give you the price. This MDF and this HDF, both of them are good. Both of them are good, but this one does not like water. And this one is waterproof. A young boy wants to learn this work, anybody that wants to learn, maximum 4 years. But if they are not catch up very well, 5 years, 6. Women is doing it, but mostly they are engineer on this work. Women is many for furniture, but you can't see them working on it. Some women have factory, have many things, but you can't see them working on this. So far, you are a furniture maker, it doesn't mean that you are the one that are doing it. The challenges we encounter is this our work. First thing first most, is the board that we are using. Because the customer, if you tell us that you should use off-white or we should use any other color or black, that we agree. We can get to market and we not see black or see the off-white. We have to wait. That's the first challenges we have. If you now go and tell the customer that, we don't see this so board, some will believe and some will not believe. Maybe you want to do a logic or you want to do a wayo or something to them or something. Okay, we don't have. This is the one that is on the market. So I can still wait that. Hold on till the board comes. And we give the customer deadline. And we are still waiting. Maybe we give him 2 weeks. 1 week has passed, we don't see the material. After 1 week, maybe 3 or 4 days, we now see the material. You know, that's the first issue that we first have with the customer. And 2, the problem we having on the challenges we have on the customer is maybe we deliver the work. The work maybe is about 1.2 or 1.5 or 2 million. The customer will give us maybe 1.2 or 1.3. As we are working here, we're working in like company or in team. We don't want to disappoint the customer. We make sure we finish the work with that 1.2 our balance is 800. Some customer will think maybe the balance is our own gain because, and we want to give our best, and we don't want to maybe because of money or something, that if we have any other job, maybe hidden job that the money is matured well, he can purposely give us maybe to have rest of mind with us, so that maybe this work so thing I get rest assurance that I will give this to these people and they will deliver. But at the end of the day, when we deliver, we'll be fighting for the balance. Those people that will bought this one from them, the board, they'll be owing us, we are owing them so thing, and we will be asked go and meet the customer. Some customer you will not see because some staying inside the estate. If you does not call the customer, you can't enter there. How do we want to get our money? Many and so forth, like 200,000, 300,000, not small money. That we are facing more different challenges about money. Basically, most of the material is imported, not Nigerian made. How do we manage being not injured is, if you are saying we are not injured, it's a lie. We are injured. This machine is cutting nuts. It's one of my partner now. You remove some. It's wounding us, I can't say it. But if you want to work on it, you have to focus. Don't think. Don't look any other. The way we are talking now, I can't go to this machine. I need to calm down to come to this machine. Because any slight mistake, my hand now, you see, many people, if you see some furniture maker now, their hand is not complete. You have to be careful. You have to use your face guard, this glass, face mask. We are using everything.
Space and style.
Thank you for staying with us. Architect Ladipo Lewis is still with us in the studio, and we're still talking about the menace of building collapse. Thank you for staying with us, Architect.
Thank you.
So, I've heard National Building Code. National Building Code. What is National Building Code?
Okay. The National Building Code is a set of data and parameters for designing buildings to meet minimum standards of safety. Now, I'm a member of the International Code Council, and I joined that organization to understand how codes have been run in other climes. And it's actually a design tool for safety. And it started out with the fire in a hotel some years in the, I think, 1930s. And people said, look, we need to put a set of codes together to make sure buildings are safe. Now, there are different kinds of codes. There are codes for structural design. There are codes for architectural design. There are codes for mechanical and electrical design. There are codes for plumbing. There are codes for swimming pool design. There are codes for open spaces. There are codes for waterproofing and underground structures. Now, the building code is a set of that determines buildings into parameters. Like you have in the first categorization of buildings, there's a building called the A category. That's as buildings that are assembly.
Like the multi-stories? No,
assembly means multiple spaces that occupy multiple people together. So an assembly building could be a church, a hall, an event center. Now you have business, that is a space like for business, like a studio like this we put under business. You have other spaces like institutional buildings. So you have residential. Like a hotel now is a mixture of different categories. The rooms are under residential. The lobby, depending on the size, could be under assembly or even business. So the gym will be under another category. The event center will be under assembly. So you have buildings in different categories. Now you do that so that you can determine the occupancy and determine how many people will occupy this space and how many exits are required. What kind of finish you require for the walls, the floors. So you have what we call horizontal assemblies, vertical assemblies, and how these things are put together. So a studio like this now is under a particular category of buildings. and then it will tell you the requirements for putting it together and the safety requirements. It also tell you the conveniences required, depending on the number of people who want to use this building.
This is an ongoing conversation.
Yes.
We cannot finish it in an episode, even in 2 episodes, even in 3 episodes. So we'd always come back to you, and we hope you always oblige us. Thank you for this conversation, and we hope you come again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been insightful, and I learned a lot.
Thank you.
Well, this is all we can take for the show this week. We hope you have learned a lot about building collapses and its prevention. Join us next week at the same time for another interesting edition of Space and Style. Don't forget to join us on all our social media platforms. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you.